Hello, everyone, and welcome aboard. Today, we'll be watching some great drone footage from the Fall 48 Regatta at the Lake Norman Yacht Club. These sailing videos were captured by CJ LaCour and can be found on the Tall Flower YouTube channel. Thank you, CJ, for uploading sailing videos and granting me permission to use them in this video. Joining me for this discussion from North Carolina is David Rink, winner of the Fall 48. I'm excited to hear David's takeaways from the videos. I'm confident we're all going to walk away from this with some really good nuggets courtesy of David. So without further ado, David, please say hello and tell us about your home club of Lake Norman Yacht Club and the Fall 48 Regatta.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. Yeah, we run two big Flying Scot regattas a year. One in the spring, first weekend in May, and then one in the fall, first weekend in November. So this year we were lucky. We had 30 boats at each regatta, so it was really nice, great for the club, and we've been doing that for quite a while. And we usually give out awards to five places deep when there's that many boats. So it was a lot of fun. And we hosted the Nationals a couple of years ago at our club, the Flying Scot Nationals, a couple of years ago, and then yeah, we've hosted quite a few different nationals for different classes over the past couple of years. In fact, yeah. So, but yeah, so the Fall 48, we had really nice breeze on Saturday morning, and then it kind of cut off, and then Sunday. We had a lot better, more consistent breeze, and we got in a bunch of races on Sunday. So I think our first race here is from Saturday, and I think it was blowing maybe 6-8 at the start, but it dies, and yeah, it dies to almost nothing by the end.
All right. Well, first off, thank you for being here. Two, thank you. You went through through CJ's videos. He recorded all the races. We're going to go through race one today in this video. He broke race one into two parts, part one and part two. And you provided me all the timestamps, and I was able to basically prepare some slides for this presentation. And we're going to go through it, and we're going to start off with 30 seconds to go at the start. So David, at the start, what were you seeing? And
yeah, it was pretty pin favored at the start, but it's a lake, so it oscillates, so you never know. But we checked it before the 5-minute gun. We checked it again during the sequence, and it was pretty pin favored. So we wanted to favor that end for sure. I'm not a fan of trying to win the pin because it's just too risky. And we were down there, 4 or 5 boats from the pin right before the start, and got a really nice start. I was a little surprised that it seemed like the wind had rotated back to the right a little bit, so the pin ended up not being quite as favored because there was a couple boats, on our windward hip that I couldn't immediately tack and cross. And normally, if the pin is favored, you tack right away. As soon as you can tack to port, you tack to port. And that really wasn't the case. We hung out on starboard for a little bit, hoping for a little bit of a knock before we tacked.
Okay,
So
pin favor, just for some of the newer sailors who are watching, what are some of the things that you do to determine whether or not the pin is favored? Just simply.
Yes. So I know a lot of people like to go put their bow into the wind and see which end of the line it's pointed at more. And that would be the pin favorite. I like to sail along the starting line with my main in the same with my main in the same position both ways, and see which way is it luffing more. Whichever way it's luffing more is the upwind end, right? So you let the main out almost all the way, you cruise down the line, it's luffing a little bit, you tack, you go back down the line the other direction, and if it's luffing more, then you're going towards the upwind end. If it's luffing less, then you're going away from the upwind end. So that's how I do it. I know there's a bunch of different ways for people to do it. This line was a decent length. And so believe it or not, when it's this long, there's different wind at each end. And some of the later races, that was obvious.
Well, that boat in the middle, was that boat over, or was that boat right on
the... So this was our first race, but our second start. Our first start, we had a general recall. And so this was actually a U flag start. I hate those. I wish we'd get rid of the black flag and the U flag, but yeah, it was a U flag start. That boat was over, so he ended up having to retire from the race early. Yeah, I felt bad for them. You know, they came from out of town, and to have to sit out a race is painful. I know, but I've had to do it before. I got called on a U flag start a couple years ago at my own club and had to sit out. So, but as you
Yeah.
can see, it's you know, we're marching up the windward leg, and if you could pause it right here. The boat that was over, he went back, and you can see there's a few boats that are kind of punched out from the rest. You know, I'm not all the way at the lower right-hand corner of the screen. That's the boat that was at the pin, but I'm the next boat in that's kind of to windward of people. So I got a really good start on this race. If you see the boat in the middle there, he got a really good start too.
So
I'm
which
not
one's you?
sure.
Is that you right over here?
That's right. The windward boat in that circle. Yep. So that's me.
Right there.
And then, yep,
Okay.
yep. And then on my wind, you know, I looked over my shoulder. I expected to be able to tack and cross everybody right away, and I couldn't. That boat in the middle there got a really good start, and then there's a couple boats, a couple people farther towards the boat end that had really good starts too, and I couldn't cross those guys. So I'm not sure which one those windward boats were, but one of them I know was Sean O'Donnell, and the other one was Charlie Buckner. Both had really good starts. Oh, and I think Tyler was crewing for a new guy, and I don't remember his name, but they had a really nice start too. So I'm looking for a lefty here. I really want to tack and cross. I really want to get on the other board here. So I'm any kind of a knock right now, and I'm gonna tack. And so I'm out there with another boat that you know, we both kind of, you know, when you get a knock, you don't want to go right away. You want to make sure that it's a real knock. And Bruce went right away, and then I went right in front of him, and I feel really bad for tacking on him like that. I hate to do that to a, you know, a great sailor, but it is
So
what it
over
is.
on the right screen, so Bruce tacks back away to get out of your dirty air.
That's right. And that's the right thing to do, right? You can't sit in dirty air. You've got to do that, or you've got to foot off a little bit and get your air clean. You know, especially at the start of a race, clean air is so important. It's nuts, right? It's the number one priority is just to sail in clean air and go fast, right? So
So can I ask you something in terms of I don't know, in dealing with other sailors in these situations? You tack on them on purpose? Did you tack them on accident? What were your thoughts
no,
there?
it was an accident. I didn't see him until I was halfway through the tack, and I would have held on for a little bit had I seen him there. You just hate this, you know. I mean, I face planted him. It was ugly. He had to tack back, and yeah, you know, we're all a lot of us travel. We race regattas together all the time, and you see people on the dock, and you run into them all the time. You just, you know, we're all friends. We're out here having a good time, and you just hate to spoil somebody's time, right?
Well,
So
that's an interesting part of racing. It could be cutthroat. Maybe other classes are. All's fair in love and war, but a lot of the sailors who are when I was getting started, and I'm still getting up there. You leapfrog me, but the general consensus is if you get a great start, let's all work together to bust out and get away from the pack, and then duke it out. And that seems to be the mentality. So when I saw you tack on Bruce, I was wondering if you did that on purpose, and that makes sense. So
yeah,
do you get that same vibe that let's get away from everybody and let's not mess with each other? Is that what you usually think?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That is the number one thing. Get out on your own, get clear air, and then just work the shifts. That's the number one thing. And your shifts aren't the same as a boat. You could have different shifts. So you got to work what you got, and you know, manage your clear air, right?
Okay, so
And
we're going to
sail the
jump to
long.
about 22 minutes and 30 seconds into the YouTube video, and here you guys are bearing
Yeah,
away. And what's your
yeah.
you
Yeah. So it's a bear away set, right? And because what was it? Port tack was long. It was the long tack, so it's for sure a bear away set. And you know that in your head. You should be thinking about that, you know, before you get to the windward mark. That hey, I've spent a lot of time on port tack. Therefore, the wind has shifted to the left, and I'm going to be doing a bear away set. But interesting coming up here. There's a boat on the starboard tack lay line, barely making the mark. He's pinching like crazy. If you can see him there. He's just barely making it, right? And there's a boat that ducks him right there, but he's struggling to make it. And if he had tacked in front of that boat that just took his stern, he would have ended up a lot better off. As you can see, he's coming in here, not a lot of speed. I'm actually really impressed that he makes it around the mark. I never thought watching this video, I said, there's no way he's going to make it. And he does. So that's impressive. But he ends up hitting the mark here. And the boat that took his stern is rolling over the top of him right now. And he was actually in front of that boat. So it just goes to show you that, if you can't make the mark, recognize it early, look for a place to tack and get out, a little bit farther so that you can come in with speed and round the mark. Because he's got to still do a circle here for hitting the mark. I think he does 2 in the video.
Yeah, he does 2. I was wondering if I didn't see a foul, so maybe he just did 2 by mistake, but I didn't see a foul in that whole
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't see a foul either, but you never know, right? We're a long way away from the action here.
Well, I did the math. I went back and watched the boat in the back, and if you rewatch this video, if you want to go back and do that, it still would have been better to duck rather than do that slow death. And so you wonder if sometimes I suppose it could work out, but in this case it didn't, especially when you do two turns. But while we were watching that boat get tied up at the mark, let's go back to the 23-minute mark. If you watch, we're watching it again. So there's a boat pinching up to the mark, but if you notice, there's a boat that forgets to round the offset mark and just turns down.
Hey,
probably got distracted by that guy.
Can you pause it right here though? Because that boat that just took his stern, the boat that's pinching, trying to make the mark, the boat that just took his stern ends up passing him by a lot.
Are you talking about that right there?
Yep. That boat that's on port took his stern, and he could have, actually the boat that's pinching to make the mark could have tacked in front of him, right? Could have tacked in front of him and done the same thing that he's doing right now. So
yeah, that wouldn't have worked.
It's just proof, right? That it's not a fast way to round the mark, right? You got to keep the boat moving. You get slow and nothing good happens. Anyway, okay, so
it's also easy to sail from here, but you see that big long starboard freight train. It's pretty easy to try and take that risk, and in this case, it doesn't work out for him. But watch the boat turn down here. I think it's probably gets a little distracted by that boat, and then he turns down and puts up his chute. And this is a really good racer. We'll keep the boat numbers and names anonymous here, but he's probably like, oh crap, we forgot to do the offset mark, and has to take his chute down and come back up. So I think I've done it, and I bet there's times where I've done it and not even realized it. But
I've done it for sure.
This is a little painful. It happens to the best of us, I suppose. But
yep. Your clue is the boats around you, right? He would have kept sailing downwind had he not looked around him. Thank goodness he got his head out of the boat. He looked around. Hey, wait a minute. How come everybody else is going over there? And recognized it and started sailing back upwind to get around that mark. So, but yeah, we all do it. Don't beat yourself up. Just get it down, get back around the course, and sail your own race again, right?
That is right. Okay, so now we're going to go to race 1, part 2. We're going to jump to the 2-minute and 30 mark, and here are people rounding the.
Yeah, can you pause it right here?
I can.
Okay. Because I just wanted to mention the fact that if you look at all the spinnakers, they're all on port jibe. Okay, that means the wind has rotated to the right, right? And so if port jibe is favored going downwind because it's a big right he's rolled through, then starboard should be the favored tack going upwind. So you round the leeward mark, right? Get clear air and tack onto starboard. And if you see there's 3 boats fairly far up the course. They're all 3 on starboard. One was the lead boat. I think that was Sean. He's the rightmost starboard boat up there. I'm in the middle on starboard. And then I think down here low, just behind the other spinnaker, just behind the other boat without a kite up is, that's.
So that's Sean and that's you? Or that's
you
and that's Sean?
Farther to the left.
Over here.
Yeah, Yeah, that's me right there.
Okay.
And Sean's on my right.
Okay. I'm with you. Sorry.
That's
You did
that's
say port,
Sean.
didn't you?
Yeah. And way over on the left is Dave Chapin, going upwind. It's kind of hidden behind the other downwind boat. Sorry, way over on the left. Yeah.
So you're
Left is
talking
the other. Yeah. Yeah. Keep going left.
right there.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, he tacked immediately. He got around the leeward mark and tacked right away. And the only risky part about that is you're sailing back through spinnakers, giving you bad air. I didn't want to do that for sure. That's why I went out a little bit and then tacked. I went out till I could clear most of the spinnakers, um, you know, on starboard without having to sail below them and through their bad air, right?
Hmm.
I wanted to keep my air clear.
So this is O'Donnell, and this is the probably the fourth place
I don't
boat.
know. Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure who that is, but that's O'Donnell right there. So yeah, so he went even farther out on that port tack before he tacked to starboard. But anyway, we're all three on starboard. The three lead boats are all three on starboard. And my point was that, when everybody, if you look, everybody's on port. So okay, so this mark rounding is pretty interesting as we come in here. Um, there's a boat with a red hull there trying to get, inside or trying to get his bow up. He just barely couldn't get his bow up. Here we go. Okay.
So
Yeah. So the
so if you
red,
it's right there. That's the boat we're talking about.
so yeah, that red kite's coming down and the boat behind him has to keep clear. And he does keep clear. He doesn't hit him, but he can't turn up inside of him. And it's inches. It's just inches away. He turns up just a little too much. Look, he can't quite get his bow inside. He tries it again. Can't quite clear the rudder.
No, that
Can't just it's inches away, right?
but it's going to be a
And
very costly mistake, isn't it? Look at that.
yeah, so if you fast forward a little bit, look how he's low and he's in bad air of two boats now up to windward of him. And if he had, slowing
Oh,
down on purpose is a hard thing to do. And if you,
yeah.
yeah, see, he's the farthest right, lowest boat over there now. And yeah, slowing down on purpose is psychologically so difficult to do. But it's better to be a little bit slow and maybe lose a whole half a boat length than it would be to see what happened to him there, right? To where he's got to sail in somebody's bad air, right? You can't really tack right away. It's a killer for
Well,
sure.
well, there was just so little to gain and so much to lose by making that move. If
Right.
you watch it again, he's slowing down, doing all the right things. It just went early for some reason. And again, it's so easy to sail when you're sitting behind a desk.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've
And it was inches. It looks so
mhm.
close.
But I mean, if he would just given him 3 feet there, it wouldn't have. And it's probably given up 15 boat lengths here. I don't, maybe I'm exaggerating, but maybe I'm not. So, yeah, there was a big loss we had on that, just a few inches of not clearing. It's an amazing penalty right there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so things have developed upwind for sure. And let's see. I I think the camera's going to rotate right a little bit here in a second, but maybe not.
Okay, so there's boats way up there.
Yeah, so I
Where are
know.
you at?
So if you want to pause it, I just tack. Yeah, that's me on starboard now, and Sean's going right on port still. Yeah, there you go. And we're
Okay.
the lead two boats, right? And so I really expected him to cover me. And when he let me go, I was really surprised. And
Well,
so just in a second here, you'll be able to actually see that I'm almost pointed right at the windward mark. Um, we got to wait for the camera to come back to us.
okay. So
Um,
when you're up there, did you see anything that caused you to go that way? Or are you going that way for a reason?
well, yeah, I'm just sailing a long tack. It was really super simple, right? I'm on port. I got a knock. I tacked over to starboard. I'm not laying the mark, but it's pretty close. It's very favored. The starboard tack was very favored. And so you can see I'm the farthest boat up there on starboard. And I think the camera rotates and see Sean's still going out on port. I couldn't believe it, to be honest.
So,
And
so let's talk about sailing long tack. We got some beginners watching this. What's the purpose of sailing the long tack? What's the benefit?
um, you're climbing ladder rungs faster. You're making progress. You're making more progress towards the mark, right? So I always think about, is my bow pointed more at the mark on this tack or the other tack, right? If I look over my shoulder and the mark is 90 degrees away, I better tack, right? I want to tack and point my bow at the mark. So I'm always trying to sail the tack where my bow is pointed closer to the mark. And normally that will get you so many gains getting up a race course. It's amazing how beneficial that is to just sail. Look at Sean still going out to the right. I couldn't believe. I was impressed, to be honest, that he maintained his second place. I kind of thought he would have given up more spots than just one there.
So back to the long tack. The way I understand the long tack is it allows you to stay towards the middle, which allows you to take advantage of shifts. But but you might want to avoid sailing the long tack if you are getting pointed or you see a big wind puff. I'm no expert. I need to be thinking more along these lines myself. But the other thing I was thinking that Sean may have been thinking, and I wish Sean was here to talk. But
Well, I did. I talked to him about it a little bit. He saw more pressure over there. That's why he kept
okay,
going.
okay,
So fair enough. And to be honest, I thought it was going to kill him. I thought he was going to round the windward mark in eighth place, and he rounded in second and got a second in the race. So kudos to him for sailing far enough to get into that pressure to come back. And the wind did go farther right. So he made out because of that as well.
yeah. Most of the guys like you don't make mistakes, but sometimes when I'm in that situation, I'm like, well, I'm going to go the opposite way, maybe get lucky. So sometimes I do that, but I don't want to. I don't want to lose the rest of the fleet in the process either. So do you ever think like that, or do you usually settle for a
No,
closer second?
I'm a pretty conservative sailor, man. I'm gonna cover when I can. I like to sail in the middle of the race course. So we have a guy at our club that won the Thistle Nationals a few years back, Brad Russell, and he talked about sailing in the middle. And the middle doesn't mean the middle of the course. It means the middle of the boats. So if all the boats are on the right, he wants to meet the middle boat on the right. And he won that Thistle Nationals, and I believe he never won a race, but he won the Nationals. He won the regatta. Okay, so we're up at the windward mark now. I've rounded. That's my solid blue kite there. That's up, and so that's the distance. You can see Sean coming into the windward mark now. That's the benefit of sailing the long tack. Sean was ahead of me at the leeward mark. Sean's a really good sailor too. I learned a ton from him. He's a director of the sailing center on Lake Norman. And I crewed for him for many years. And frankly, to be honest, learned like almost everything I know from that guy. So, I love the guy. Yeah, so you gotta point your bow at the mark when you can. There are times in very light, shifty conditions where you don't want to do that because you've got to sail over to a puff. But yeah, in most cases, you want to sail the long tack.
Well, I wasn't paying attention, but I take it he was a lot closer to you when he rounded the downwind mark.
He was in front of me. I
Oh,
rounded maybe
okay.
4 or 5 boats behind him
There you
at the
go.
leeward mark. Yeah.
There you go. Now,
So
now you guys bared off again. And any same thinking on the reason why, or did you see something from the wind? Do you
So
remember?
yes, so I did not jibe set because I wanted to maintain, thank you for reminding me, I wanted to maintain my starboard rights, right? As soon as you do a jibe and you're on port, then you're the windward boat and on port, you don't have rights over anybody. So I carried, I rounded, we had a good lead, so I didn't want to do anything risky like jibe set's not quite as conservative, right? So I've got these 2 boats coming upwind of me, right? They're coming upwind. I'm going downwind. I'm in the blue kite there, and so now I have rights over them because I'm on starboard and they're on port. So that's really the reason. Now, to be honest, I should have jibed right here because there's no more issues, but I was a little worried about this other boat, maybe tacking. So I carried on until I knew he wasn't an issue, and then we jibed. But it was all about maintaining my rights. And so when there's other boats in the way, sometimes you got to be conservative on your jibe over to port. And there was no reason for me to do anything risky at this point. Yeah. So
Well, that's very interesting. There was also a situation for where some boat tacked a couple times to the windward mark. I think maybe we glossed over it. Do you remember where that was?
oh, it's coming up still. Yeah, it's coming up because see the red hull is coming on, what's he on, starboard? There's a guy coming in all the way out on the port side. A little farther out on port, farther to the right. Yep, that port boat right there coming upwind crosses these two boats that are on starboard. And it's an interesting situation. I watched this video a couple times, and I understand that he got a knock, and so he tacked. But he's going to tack here before he gets to the starboard ley line. I'm talking about that starboard. Can you put the circle up? So he crosses easily in front of those two, right? Easily in front of those two. And now he's going to tack back because I think he got a little bit of a knock. It does look like his bow went down some. And so these guys tack over onto port now. Now they don't have any rights, so they're going to take his stern here. But it's interesting that he crosses them, right? Once he lets them cross, now he's lost kind of his starboard advantage.
Yeah, I can't
Right,
believe he tacked back that early. But I just wondering.
Yeah.
He's a good sailor. I just probably wouldn't have done that. Or I like to think that, but
Yeah.
I just found that interesting. Did you talk to him and see if there was a reason for it, or just because he thought he was
Well,
done?
I haven't. The only thing I can think is did look like his bow went down some. He got a bit of a knock, so that's the only reason I would do something like that. Because as he's coming back in here now, he's put in two more tacks in the other two boats,
Yeah.
and they're ahead. He ends
That's
up
a lot.
going behind them.
That's in light wind too, so the tacks are going to be
Costly. Yeah.
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 They're going to
The
be
wind has
costly.
really died here. Yeah. I mentioned at the beginning that the wind was going to die by the end of this, and yeah, it's in the process of it. You can see how down the course, though, like at the starting line at the far end, the breeze is still nice, right? But up here at the windward mark, it's dying, and this dying is going to work its way down the course.
This is great video. This is awesome stuff, CJ. If you're watching, we certainly appreciate you taking the footage. It's very helpful to watch this. And Dave, thanks for coming on and talking about race one. We're going to talk about more races in future videos, but I think we want to keep these in more bite-sized watching segments. So we'll end this video for race one, and we'll go over races two and three maybe on another day. But anything you want to add, Dave, before we sign off?
Nope. Thanks for putting the time to putting this together, Eric. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it was great.
All right, we'll do some more. We'll have some more fun. And if you are out there and you come across YouTube videos, go to the Sailboat Instructor website and share them with us, and they might be featured in future videos like this. So, Dave, we'll talk again soon.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye, everyone.